In this lecture, we are going to learn about form validation using AngularJS. Actually, Angular comes with a bunch of features for a form validation. We will start validation by very basic step. First thing, if you are going to use Angular validation, you need to stop the default HTML validation using no validate in the form tag, and we need to give a name for this form. I'll make the form name as form1, and I need, if form is not valid, I want to stop the submit of this function. We will see how we are doing that one. I am going to use form valid here, and we will see how we write that. First we need to get the form object, form1 dot $valid. Actually, a $valid is Angular predefined variable. This $valid will true if form is valid. This $valid is false if form is not valid. And we will tell if form is valid, fire this function. If form is not valid, do not fire the function. We have defined the form valid object, but we didn't make any field as a mandatory required field. For that we will use required. The name is required to submit this form, and we will run the application and see the output. Yes, it runs. I'm not going to enter anything into name. I'll enter some email, test@email.com, and I'm going to put model and the date, all the other details, and put submit and see. There's no any output added to this one, and we will add a name and see. Yes, when you add the name, it's submitted successfully, and we will check it again, and we will add some real data. Navas at gmail.com and model status, and I have filled all the details, and I am hitting the submit button. Nothing happens, and I'll put the name here, and when I hit the submit, yes, it's submitted. And now you understood how this form1.valid object is working and how the required is working. When you submit the form without any details to the name field, you didn't see any message here. It just submit, and submit get fails because of this criteria. The next step is we need to see some error here, error message here, and for that we will use a span here, span, and I'm going to use if error is true, this span has to show, and for that I'm going to use ng show, and I'm going to give this name is not correct, name is required, and if name is not available, this error has to show. The form1 dot the name of the controller, I'll put name of the controller as name dot, we have to use $error and required. I'm going to show the error message. Name cannot be blank. Okay, I didn't put name for this input field. I'll put name as name. That's the same the name I have used here. And yes, you saw the error message, name cannot be blank. We will enter some text and see, yes, it disappears. When you hit submit, it did not submit. When you hit enter some name, this error message is disappeared. Now you see how you use ng-show with this error object. Okay, we will validate the email also. We will put email as a required field, and I'll out error message. Email is that, and I'm going to put ng-show if email is not valid, show this message form1 dot email dot $mark error dot required. You can see if this email is not valid, this error message is displayed. We just put some characters and see error is disappeared. And I'll change the color of the error as style color red, and see the difference here. Email is required, we will enter something, it automatically goes out. When the field is clear, that the red error message is coming. Okay, we will validate the length. Here we will use ng min length, and I'll put length as 3, and we'll see 1 2 3 4, and I'll enter email.com, and we'll put only 2 characters and submit and see. You didn't see anything submitted, but this error is also didn't appear. Did you check why it is not appear? You see, this error is for form1 name error dot required. If this field is required false, this ng-show is appearing, and this error message didn't do anything with the min length. Okay, I'm going to add error message here for the minimum length. I'll add a span and ng-show show this message if minimum length is less than entered length form1 dot name dot error dot min length, and I'll put the error as length is not enough, and we'll run and see. Okay, the first error is name cannot be blank. I'm going to enter some name. Okay, only one character, and length is not enough message is coming, and I'll add another character. Length is not enough, minimum length is 3. That means if length is equals to 3, because minimum length, and the form is valid, and we will add email here, and we will put the other details and try to submit. Yes, it's submitted. You see, with the minimum length, the form is valid and submitted. we will give the maximum length for email. For that we will use ng max length, and I'll put max length as 10, and we will check. I'm going to enter name, and email is max is 10. I'm going to enter more than 10, and I'm going to select other details and click submit. Nothing happens, but no error message, because this error message for required. And I'm going to write another error message for this max length span, and the error message is length exceeded. And ng show form1 dot email dot error dot max length. Now we will try to compile it and see. I'm going to enter an email. You see the length is exceeded. I have entered more than 10 characters and it gives the message length is exceeded. Now you see how easy the Angular validation is. And now we see, now we displayed error message for each controller. Now we check how we display one error message for all the input controllers. I'll remove these error messages for each controller, and sorry, and I'm going to use one error message here. I'll put span and error in form, and I'm going to use ng form, ng show in form1 dot error dot required. Oh, I'm going to use form1 dot valid. If form1 is not valid, give me that error. Yes, it returns the error, and we will check for the name. Name is required and minimum length is 3. We will enter some name and it complete the criteria of the name, and then the email. The email is required and max length is 10. We will put some email, em@em.com, and you see error is disappeared. We will add a big email and see. Yes, error appears because the max length is exceeded on the email. And you see how we use a common error message for a form. Okay, my last requirement is, if form is not valid, disable this button. It's very easy. I'll use ng disabled. If variable is true, this input is going to disable. Form1 dot valid till form valid, button disabled. You see, button is disabled. You cannot hit this button, and I'll enter details and see button is available. Yes, you see button is available to hit. Well, again we will remove this email and see. Yes, button is disabled to hit. Okay, now we are going to learn how Angular is behave with this each stage. Stages means like this name field is required, but currently there's no any the input into it. That Angular behaves in that time in one way. When I enter something, it behaves in another way, and likewise I'll give the first behavior Angular make as ng pristine, and I'll make when ng pristine color of this as a black, and the second one is .ng dirty. I'll mark the color of the font as red, and .ng valid, I'll mark the color as yellow, and the last one is ng invalid. I'll mark color as again pink, and see what's happening. Now you see the field is invalid, color is become pink. I'll change pink is not clear, I'll change that to orange, and I'll enter some data here like name, and if valid yellow is also not clear, I'll put if it is valid as a blue. If it is valid blue, I'll put details. Yes, the text box is valid, color becomes blue, and email, currently email is valid, color become blue, and you can see the full form change the color into blue. Now you understood about this behavior. If form is valid, that Angular behavior is ng valid, you see that color becomes blue. If form is invalid, the Angular behavior is ng invalid, and when form is invalid it becomes orange, but here in the name it becomes blue because this input is valid, but the full form, the other fields are not valid. That's why input is become blue and other fields become orange. And if you use the length, you can see the ng dirty, you can see it becomes orange again, and the pristine condition is black, pristine condition, and if it is valid and invalid it becomes blue and orange. If it is dirty it will get red. We covered a lot of Angular validation area, and hope you understood these things, and according to your project these features you can use.